Have you ever heard the saying that a little bit of knowledge can be very dangerous? Well, watch this next clip and you'll understand exactly why.
And a former U.S. Marine marksmanship instructor. And he has taken some time to try and dismantle some of the right-wing Second Amendment lies about the right to bear arms. So for fact's sake, watch this.
I think there's a lot of people who don't understand what the Second Amendment actually means in context of the whole Constitution, right? Right. The confusion is I can just be a militia by myself, and a well-regulated militia just means what I want it to mean. That's not true. It's 100% not true. Here's what it means. Congress shall have the power to call forth the militia, execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions. The militia, in the context of our Constitution, is enforcing the laws of the Union. They work for the government, not against some tyrannical fantasy government that you guys are fetishizing against. That's not what it's supposed to. It says so right here. It also says that the Congress shall have the power to provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia. That means you get your militia arms from the government. You don't buy them yourself. That's what the Constitution says. Congress provides the rules for the militia. Congress provides the arms for the militia. Congress calls up the militia. You don't just get to be a militia on your own. I mean, look at this thing. This is what we had to teach Marines. It's a 2-week course. Marines have to go through this every single year to be qualified to shoot with the M16A2 service rifle, which is like the AR-15. But an 18-year-old in the United States of America, an 18-year-old doesn't have to go through any of that training, can go grab an AR-15 and do damage like they've done and murder kids in classrooms like they've done, like they continue to do.
Okay, so clearly there was an awful lot wrong with that, namely the fact that he's trying to pit Article 1 of the United States Constitution, specifically Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15 and 16. He's trying to pit Article 1 against the Second Amendment in a way that it goes beyond being historically illiterate or just black and white stupid. It crosses into the threshold of intentionally misrepresenting the Constitution of the United States. But we're not going to let him get away with this today. So let's revisit. What does the Second Amendment say? It says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay, so we've got that, but now what does Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15 and 16 say? Well, here it is word for word, and if you paid really close attention, you'll notice he left out certain things, so we'll just read it all directly. It says, Congress shall have the power to provide for the calling forth of the militia to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions. Congress shall have the authority or the power to provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, and for governing such part of them as may be employed in the service of the United States, reserving to the states, respectively, the appointment of the officers and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress. So here we have two different parts of the United States Constitution, both referencing the militia. So now we would ask, what is the militia? Well, luckily for us, Founding Father George Mason asked and then answered that exact question for us when he said, quote, I ask, sir, what is the militia? And then he answers and says, it is the whole people, except for a few public officials. So in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15 and 16 describe the power of Congress to call upon the militia to, for example, repel foreign invasions. It then goes on to say, by the way, if Congress is calling out the militia or the people, right, all able-bodied citizens, if Congress is calling upon the people to repel foreign invasion, then yes, of course, it's the responsibility of Congress to arm and discipline them, to teach them how to fight a war, to teach them how to repel a foreign invasion. Article 1 isn't saying that you only have the right to the firearms provided to you by the government. Article 1 is saying if you don't have a gun and Congress calls upon you to defend your country against an invasion, then Congress will supply you with the gun. The Founding Fathers would have never in a million years written the Second Amendment and then also had Article 1 say that the guns you have a right to are only the guns given to you by your government. That would completely defeat the entire intent and purpose of the Second Amendment. And if you're wondering what's the intent and purpose of the Second Amendment, it serves as the final check and balance that exists between a free people and their government. Our Founding Fathers had just fought a revolutionary war and defeated the greatest military and economic superpower that the world had ever seen. And they knew that if that's something that they had to do with, then God forbid it may be something that we would have to deal with later on down the road. They wrote down the Second Amendment to ensure that the people had a fighting chance against their government, that if any government became destructive to a certain end, that the people had the right to alter or abolish that government. The Second Amendment is the vessel by which they abolish it. It would make absolutely no sense to give the people the Second Amendment to retain the right to abolish some sort of a tyrannical government and then require those people to get their arms to abolish the government from the same government. See, trying to pit the Constitution, Article 1 of the Constitution, against the Second Amendment of the Constitution is not just historically illiterate. It's not just downright stupid, but it's blatantly dishonest. This man knows what the Constitution says, yet he intentionally tries to mislead and gaslight the American people so that he can disarm them. Which, by the way, is the exact kind of tyrant behavior for which the Second Amendment was written. It's written to protect us from people like that who would seek to disarm us. Because every time in human history that there's been some sort of a horrible, Holocaust or gulag or anything like that, step number 1 was always to disarm the people. Think about it. Every single horrible humanitarian disaster all throughout human history, what's the common theme? The government did it. And every single time, that same government first disarmed those people. So I know that that guy was counting on the fact that most Americans don't know the Constitution. But unfortunately for him, I do know the Constitution. And this is a perfect example, a perfect case study of why I always tell people we have to know the Constitution. Don't assume that you know it. Sit down and actually read, study diligently what the Constitution says. Study the writings of our Founding Fathers. Study what they said. There's so many historical documents. For example, that quote from George Mason describing what the militia is. There's so much information out there, but listen, we cannot defend something that we don't know. If we don't know what the Constitution actually says, we stand no chance whatsoever at defending the Constitution from liars like that who would like to strip you of your rights. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed today's video. By all means, if you did, leave it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, do whatever you gotta do. It helps me out greatly. It boosts the algorithm, so on and so forth. But anyways, until next time, keep me in your prayers. Keep your country in your prayers. God bless.